Assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, considering the time that I have, I was going to say something really nice about elders and their legacy, but I'll just say that we love them, and that's it, and go straight into it. So, what is a Muslim seminary? Should be a straightforward question to answer. The first Islamic seminary was set up in the mid-70s in Bury. It remains the largest seminary to this day and maintains influence over a significant number of seminaries established later. Then the seminary in Dewsbury. I studied, I think, around 5.5 years there myself, was set up around 1981. Today there are around 30 seminaries, approximately, although no accurate figure based on a clear definition exists. And by the way, Ron is here. You said 30 in a piece of work that you did, so I'm quoting you. These two early seminaries were both Deobandi, and therefore from the seminary tradition of the Indian subcontinent, where a seminary curriculum called the Dars-e-Nizami is dominant. And the Dars-e-Nizami actually transcends some of the sectarian issues. So both the Braillewi community as well as the Deobandi community adopt the Dars-e-Nizami, for example. Deobandis, named after the famous seminary in the town of Deoband in Uttar Pradesh, India, are a Sunni subgroup in the subcontinent who have spread across the globe because of three things. Number one, immigration. Number two, the success of the Deoband seminary as a model of education for preserving Islam, and number three, the missionary work of the Tablighi Jamaat. And you can all look into this if you take an interest. And Tablighi Jamaat are, of course, the quietest intra-Muslim, primarily intra-Muslim missionary movement founded by one of the graduates of the Deoband Seminary. The website of the Deoband Seminary, and indeed many books on the topic, describe the Deobandis as Sunni Hanafis who follow the disposition or track, or even I've heard the word tack used, of the founders of the seminary. This is then explained further, and there is an explanation in English on the website. And Qari Tebs, who was the principal for 50 years, his books are also renowned for explaining the methodology of the Deoband Seminary. The Dewsbury Seminary is influenced by the Tabligh Jamaat and continues to attract its students from families committed to the movement, my father being one of them, for example. The Bury Seminary is more broadly Deobandi, with a particular emphasis on aspects of Sufism as practiced by Deobandis. So yes, Deobandis are principally Sufi. The difficulty with Muslim seminaries in the UK is determining what exactly they are, a problem well acknowledged in the 2010 report by Dr. Alison Scott Bowman and others. The report struggles with this problem and is unable to provide any clarity. Many institutes consider themselves a seminary because they teach the Dars-e-Nizami, or at least claim to. They are, but often they're just secondary schools. Are they producing leaders and imams whose Islamic education ended at 16? Others are graduating students at 18 as the norm. Are we to assume that they've already completed a program that is often described as BA equivalent by some, master's equivalent by others, but yet at 18 these students have completed it? Yet others are part-time operations whose structure is difficult to read in terms of levels and standards of learning. Finally, how do we determine the standards to which the program is taught? By standards, I mean standards that Muslim scholars would agree to without necessarily referring to external standards like the standards of the UK education system. So there are these problems. Given there's almost universal and somewhat unchallenged acknowledgement that these institutions are producing homegrown imams, leaders and scholars, I would propose that a seminary should have the following features to be taken seriously. A, it teaches a curriculum that broadly fulfills the objectives of seminaries in the Muslim world. I know it's vague, but let's just go with it. B, the higher levels of the curriculum, so if you like, the final 2-3 years, are taught to students who are of a mature age, ideally between 18 and 21. right? So you're teaching Hidayah to a 14, 15-year-old. Honestly, it really can't be taken seriously. The institutes aim to produce leaders, the institute's aim to produce leaders is based on the strength of its seminary curriculum, not based on the potential of the students to go on to be leaders after further studies. I mean, who doesn't claim that they produce leaders based on that potential, right? It has to be based on the strength in the curriculum. Furthermore, this aim is aligned to the duty of preserving faith and spirituality. Otherwise, seminaries have really no distinctive role, right? Because if it's just leadership, then why not go and attend a leadership specialist school or college or university, right? They'll do a much better job. Most seminaries barely have the resources to teach, the faith element. There's an acknowledgement, and D is that there is an acknowledgement of the issue of authority. This is a difficult one, and I know it's part of the conference's theme, which in the largest seminaries is based on the ijaza, or the license system, the permission-based license system. This is important as it ties in with the role of seminaries as preservers of faith and tradition. Otherwise, any kind of relevance in terms of the tradition becomes a claim, and you have to go into a wider conversation and debate about what exactly that means and for whom and so on. This is just an example of some subjective criteria, and I acknowledge that. Without this, most of what we have to say about seminaries, leaders, imams, leadership, etc., makes no sense. I mean, what is the basis of the conversation today, for example, when we talk about leadership, when we talk about authority, when we talk about leadership production, imams, etc., etc.? What is it based on? What are the criteria based upon which we determine this? And I know we can have a conversation, it should be open and everybody should bring their contribution to the table, but in the context of seminaries and the training of imams, I think clarity is absolutely necessary. And I think we'll all acknowledge that no system of education can be taken seriously based purely on self-definition. Okay, so Ebrahim College. So why did Ebrahim College start? So it began in 2003 with the primary objective of producing better teachers for the Muslim community. The EC team had previously worked with a wide network of existing Darul Uloom graduates on a project to improve the standards of madrasa education, which of course are Islamic supplementary schools. Our work required a commitment to professional development, open-mindedness to new ideas and methods, and the willingness to improve one's pedagogy as part of the process to drive up standards in madrasas. We very young at the time, by the way, so it was my early 20s at the time. We very quickly found that it was extremely difficult to find people who could work satisfactorily within a new system that required a wider skill set that went beyond just imparting knowledge to the best of one's ability. So you just sit down and just teach. So we felt there was an acute shortage of manpower in an area of work that served some 70% of Muslim children. And that's according to statistics by our friends at, where are you? At Ilm to Amal. There you are, Waqas. EC was established with the simple objective that in the future, our own work in the provision of Islamic education at any level should not suffer as a result of this manpower shortage. We would set up our own seminary program and safeguard the growth of our work. Now, this work with madrasas that I just mentioned, although not within the remit of EC's work today as a seminary, remains a major part of what the original EC team continues to do. With a chain of 15 to 20 madrasas directly under our supervision, and one of the most popular series of Islamic studies textbooks for children in the West that supplies resources to around 500 madrasas throughout the Western world. You can find more information about that particular series at safarpublications.org. Around half of the teachers in these madrasas are EC graduates and alumni or current mature students. So some progress with the basic manpower problem, basically, that started the whole journey off. Having been through the Darul Uloom system myself, the problems and the team as well, the problems we faced were not a surprise, but the extent of the shortage was a surprise. How quickly we ended up facing a manpower problem, that was a surprise. Once committed to the idea of a new seminary, however, our own experiences as UK educated Darul Uloom graduate played a major role in how we kind of formulated the model in those early days, as well as our professional experiences, although limited at the time, as a young team, also played a role in determining how we went about things. So what did we change at the beginning and why? And I'll quickly run through in bullet points what some of these are. And perhaps we'll have some more conversation in Q&A. So, okay, so first, the early changes, right? Number one, the first thing we did was we changed the medium of teaching to English from Urdu, right? Should be obvious, but at the time, most seminaries that considered themselves Darul Ulooms on the subcontinental model taught in Urdu in the UK. We had been taught in Urdu. Most of us were not even Urdu speaking ourselves. We understood the need for Urdu in existing Darul Ulooms due to the teachers, because they were Urdu speaking, but there appeared to be no attempt to change this. We changed it and exerted considerable effort to ensure curriculum resources were translated or written in English. We committed to raise the standards of Arabic. Again, sounds obvious. Arabic was a victim of the esteem that Urdu enjoyed in Darul Ulooms. The average Darul Uloom graduate is fluent in Urdu regardless of ethnic background, and their Urdu is far superior to their Arabic literacy. It is acceptable for a Darul Uloom student to graduate with almost no functional literacy in Arabic as long as they are sufficiently proficient in Urdu. Yet, Arabic is the language of the Quran and the Sunnah and of all of the major texts they study, and the basis of their claim to scholarship and credibility. Although subjective and unverified, I'm going to put it out there, I can confidently claim that the Arabic program at Ebrahim College is one of the best outside the Muslim world. And I include university programs in that, outside the Muslim world, okay? So I don't want to create a rod for my own back. So this is subjective, but I welcome kind of scrutiny because it will only make us better. Raising the level of English literacy is the next challenge. This proved to be far more difficult than expected. Many colleagues from universities comforted me saying, oh, Shams, don't worry, you know, that it's a problem everywhere. But, you know, students were struggling with, some of it was because we're taking students in at 16 and perhaps we weren't equipped to give them the kind of literacy that they would have experienced had they gone through their A-levels at college and so on. The other problem was that the program overall, 6 years they're with us, and the program is a bilingual program. Right, one student who joined us after graduating in IT, so gone through university, I remember said to me, after 5 years of like learning Arabic, you know, and raising my standard of Arabic to an academic level, I feel like my English has gone the other way, right? Even though, you know, he's a graduate. The next important thing was to raise the level of qualification that students possess. This is really because of our own experience, having come out of seminary with just GCSEs. Most Darul Uloom graduates, as I just said, have GCSEs. We incorporated the sixth form within the first 3 years of the seminary program, so students who chose university were not in any way disadvantaged. And we eventually stopped the sixth form, and I'll come to that if I can. Then we made a first attempt at trying to demonstrate how the 6 years of our seminary program corresponded to the different levels of the UK education system based on the National Qualifications framework. We presented the seminary program based on a notional levelling at first. Then this was done more accurately during our attempt at getting our program validated by the University of Gloucestershire with assistance from colleagues from the university, Dr. Alison Scott Bowman and Dr. David Webster. The validation, the first year of a BA was fully developed as a certificate in Islamic Sciences and Society. The validation attempt was not successful in the end. However, the process was extremely helpful in providing clarity for the next steps in our development. Finally, we offered flexible courses on Islam and Islamic lifestyles to the community. So some 3,000 flexible course subscriptions actually happen at Ebrahim College, online, on campus, and so on. And I would propose actually that this is a phenomenon that I think that needs to be looked at and it needs to be studied. This whole thing about, you know, adult Islamic lifestyle-based education. A couple of changes then we made later. Around 2009, when our first cohort of students were completing the seminary program, we conducted a review, made some more changes. First, I want to mention two really important ones. First, we got rid of the A-levels. Why? We realized that if we were to be taken seriously as a seminary, we had to focus on the part of our program that corresponded to undergraduate level study in the humanities and social sciences. And due to the sixth form, we'd also struggled to attract more mature students who'd already completed their A-levels and undergraduate studies. So the program was revised and relaunched with a 1-year Arabic intensive as a prerequisite, then a seminary program over 4 years. We still say undergrad based on some 4-year degrees and a master's equivalent postgraduate year that also correlated with the final year of seminary studies called the Dawra al-Hadith. And if you don't do Dawra al-Hadith in the subcontinental paradigm, you're basically not taken seriously. Finally, and I'm going to end with that point, we made Ebrahim College and our seminary program co-educational. Our adult flexible courses had already been co-ed from the very beginning, so we had some experience with that. Now, although this was an issue of cultural sensitivity, we found a way to A, navigate some of the sensitivities around the issue, B, provide a completely equal access to every aspect of the educational experience at EC to both men and women, and finally, somehow maintain credibility at the same time. We offered a wider range of contextual modules in philosophy, history, and aspects of the social sciences, and then did some more work to adapt our pedagogy to kind of create some balanced things between what people experience at university and what people experience at EC. So there was only time to really just talk about just feedback, what we did, kind of like a report, and I hope that can be the basis of some conversation later on. Thank you very much.